Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
There are moments in the baseball calendar when reality seems to bend, when a single report lands like a thunderclap and suddenly every fan base is wide awake, refreshing timelines and arguing with themselves in real time. This is one of those moments, because an MLB insider has just floated a trade scenario so bold, so disruptive, that it could reshape the Toronto Blue Jays overnight. What makes it even more intoxicating is that this isn't some fringe rumor whispered in the corners of the internet. This is coming from reputable voices, and with the winter meetings now just hours away, the timing could not be more dangerous or more exciting. If you live for chaos season, do me a favor right now and like the video, share it with another Jays fan who's already lost sleep, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report, because this story has layers and every single one of them matters. We are officially on the eve of the winter meetings, that annual carnival where front offices shed their poker faces and baseball's biggest moves often decided over hurried coffees and late-night phone calls. For the Blue Jays, this particular edition already felt pivotal, especially with movement on the pitching side and the ripple effects of roster decisions starting to show. But just when it seemed like the focus might settle on relievers and secondary upgrades, a name burst back into the conversation with force. Ketel Marte. And suddenly, the trade market didn't just warm up, it caught fire. Buster Olney dropped the spark that ignited everything. According to him, the Diamondbacks told interested teams back in July that Ketel Marte was untouchable, a cornerstone they wouldn't even entertain moving. Fast forward to now, and that posture has changed dramatically. Arizona needs pitching, badly, and the quickest way to address that is by trading from strength. Marte, as uncomfortable as it may be for them, represents their most valuable chip. That single shift in stance has sent shockwaves through the league, because a player of Marte's caliber on his contract instantly becomes one of the most attractive trade targets in baseball. For Blue Jays fans, this name isn't new. Ketel Marte has hovered on the periphery of Toronto rumors for years, like a familiar ghost that never quite leaves the room. The fit has always made sense. He's versatile, he's productive, and he's locked into a deal that teams dream about when building a win-now roster. And now, with legitimate smoke around his availability, those old conversations have erupted into full-blown speculation. One mock trade in particular has grabbed the fanbase by the collar and refused to let go. A proposal floated by a respected voice around Jays circles suggests Toronto acquiring Ketel Marte and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. in exchange for Addison Barger, Jose Berrios, Arjun Nimala, and Johnny King. At first glance, it feels monstrous. The kind of deal that makes you physically lean back in your chair and mutter something under your breath. And that reaction is exactly why it's worth taking seriously. This is not a fantasy trade built on wishful thinking. This is the kind of package it actually takes to pry loose a star like Marte. You're talking about giving Arizona immediate rotation help in Berrios, a controllable everyday bat in Barger, and two high-end prospects who represent real future value. That's not an overpay in today's market. That's the price of admission when 24 teams would happily line up for the same player. Ketel Marte isn't just good. He's elite. Over the last 2 seasons, he ranks among the top hitters in baseball in WRC+, home runs, and overall value. He's 32, yes, but his bat hasn't shown signs of fading, and his contract remains one of the best bargains relative to production in the sport. This is a player who doesn't just raise your floor, he raises your ceiling, and that's why this conversation refuses to go away. Of course, the name that causes the most division here is Addison Barger. For some fans, he's already untouchable, a breakout player whose best years are still ahead of him. And that's a fair emotional response. Barger's emergence was one of the few unfiltered joys of last season, and the underlying metrics suggest he could take another step forward. But this is where cold reality creeps in. Barger still struggles against left-handed pitching, and internally, teams have to decide whether they truly believe he can be an everyday solution, or whether his value might never be higher than it is right now. Trading him would hurt. There's no way around that. But the Jays aren't operating in a vacuum. This is a win-now roster with a shrinking margin for patience. And when you zoom out, the logic becomes clearer. If Bo Bichette ultimately walks, and if Toronto pivots hard towards landing a superstar bat like Kyle Tucker, the infield and outfield picture changes dramatically. In that scenario, Replacing Bichette with Ketel Marte while upgrading the outfield with Tucker isn't just aggressive. It's transformational. Imagine the lineup for a moment. Marte slides into second base, a position he knows well. Clement handles third. Jimenez stays at short. Kyle Tucker anchors the outfield. Suddenly, you're not patching holes, you're building pressure. Every at-bat becomes uncomfortable for opposing pitchers. That's the kind of roster that forces the league to take notice. And even if Tucker doesn't come, the inclusion of Lourdes Gurriel Jr. in this hypothetical adds another layer. He gives you a right-hand bat who handles lefties well, someone who can be deployed strategically to maximize matchups. That flexibility matters, especially if the front office chooses to optimize platoons rather than chase another expensive free agent. The backlash to this idea has been fierce, and understandably so. Social media has been split straight down the middle, with some fans calling the proposal madness and others saying they'd make the deal 10 times out of 10. That divide tells you everything you need to know. This isn't about right or wrong. It's about philosophy. Do you cling to potential, or do you cash it in for certainty? And here's the uncomfortable truth. Certainty wins championships far more often than potential. Prospects don't raise banners. Established stars do. That doesn't mean you trade recklessly, but when a player like Ketel Marte becomes available, the conversation has to be real, not sentimental. There's also the pitching angle to consider. Jose Berrios is a valuable arm, but the Blue Jays have quietly positioned themselves to absorb that loss. With recent additions and internal depth, they can afford to move a starter if it means dramatically improving the lineup. From Arizona's perspective, Berrios stabilizes their rotation immediately, making the deal even more logical. This is why the timing matters so much. With the winter meetings beginning tomorrow, these conversations are about to accelerate. Front offices will test each other's resolve. Leverage will shift by the hour. And the Blue Jays, as we've been reminded time and again, tend to do the unexpected when the stakes are highest. Keegan Matheson has said it before, and it rings true here. Toronto doesn't always follow the obvious path. They prefer decisive moves, especially trades, when upgrading the roster. If Bo Bichette's situation remains unresolved, and if the Kyle Tucker pursuit intensifies, a deal like this suddenly stops feeling outrageous and starts feeling inevitable. This is why I'm throwing it back to you. Would you do it? Would you push all the chips into the middle, accept the pain of saying goodbye to Barger and top prospects, and bet on Ketel Marte being the missing piece? Or does that feel like crossing a line you're not ready to cross? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is exactly the kind of debate that defines an off-season. And make sure you're subscribed to the Blue Jays Report, because once the winter meetings begin, rumors turn into reality fast. Like the video if you enjoyed diving this deep into the madness, share it with someone who thinks this idea is either genius or insanity, and buckle up. Baseball's quiet season is officially over, and the next move could change everything.